Just when you think you know what's about to go down, you get surprise after surprise after surprise after surprise after surprise. Now, I'd like to say to you, welcome back to the Rankin experience. Whew, yeah, we're what, a week and a day into the World Cup, and when you think you are down and out, just remember some people can bring you hope, and some can bring you some, well, dare we say, they can bring you something epic, something wonderful. So I'm going to go through a few fixtures that we just glossed over. So everybody went nuts over the whole thing of Ghana and Panama. So we're going to look at that first. Then we're going to look at a series of other fixtures. So as we look at Ghana, how they lined up and how they managed to pull, dare I say, a smash and grab victory. To all my Ghanaian fans, don't get mad, but it's true. It was smash and grab. They pulled out all the stops and got it done in the 95th minute. So we're going to look at how they played it in terms of formation and tactics. So, with the last few games, you could see that it was very, very intense and it was very, very crazy. So, as we have come to see here, when we look at the Panamanians, they played four in the middle, they played three up front, and they played three at the back, which showed that initially they had to have a very great level of confidence in the back three to get the job done. The conditions were a bit wet, and this was in Canada. We also saw that there were substitutions that were made there. Four substitutions because, well, the goalkeeper was injured. And I would say this, I think it's time that people start looking at Ghana and taking them seriously because their manager, Carlos Queiroz, has had a lot of experience and excellence at the World Cup, and he has done some things that are phenomenal. So to see him get that late victory with Ghana speaks volumes, and you can see by the ratings of the teams. Semenyo, who we used to him playing very well, managed to get a respectable 6.6. Jordan Ayew got a 6.9. Suleimani got a 6.5. Yeah, it was a simple smash and grab 1-0 victory. So we're also going to look at the stats that were involved. I'm going to say this when it comes to stats. Whenever you play formations, you have to look at how balanced your team is. For the avid footballer and fan that loves to play football, we've seen mostly that in this tournament, a lot of teams are either playing 4-3-3 or they're playing 4-5-1. Some would go with formations that don't make sense. And when you watch the dynamics of the game, you would see that the strategy works, but the manpower sometimes we want them to actually follow through on what needs to be done. So when I look at the Panamanians, yes, they're ranked higher than Ghana. That's great. They dominated in every single department except the goal that was scored. So they dominated in shots on target, total shots, touches in the opposition box, the big chances that they had that they didn't take. So when you look at all of this, it's a game of give and take. We even look at the XG. The XG for Ghana was 1.25, which means they were more likely to score than the Panamanians were. We looked at everything in terms of defense. Because now you're playing with a back three and you're very, very stressed, you could see that it was a lot of blocks that were made. Um, They were trying to do everything defensive and they made the most tackles, which is 29. Passes, they had the possession, just as it indicated up here with 62%. They didn't capitalize on it, and I'd like to thank FootMob for the use of their software because this software is quite cool. This app is great. For those of you who are looking for FootMob, please find it on Apple or also on Google Play. It will help you look at and analyze and see what is the squad's going to look like, how's everything going to be set up, and how everything is great or if it's not so memorable. So when we look at this, Ghana, they took it fine. 1-0, smash and grab. Everybody was thinking draw. It didn't happen. Right, so we are only focused on the World Cup. Forget all the other fixtures that are available. Local time, my time, we are only going to see a fixture 9 p.m. South African Standard Time, which I'm assuming US time, that's about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Right, so again, we're looking at results. We're looking at what happened tactically, how it went down. Colombia, it was a phenomenal game. They did what they're supposed to. We expected the Colombians to win. I even said that, you know what, Colombia is going to throw down. They're going to perform. They're going to deliver. And it is crazy that they got 3 goals while they were playing in the Azteca. And the result speaks for itself. But now let's look at how they lined up. Again, I spoke earlier and I said that we use a standard 4-3-3 system. We had Sanchez, we have Jefferson Lerma, you have James Rodriguez, he's still there. We have Luis Diaz. So these were the players that gave that star power, that aura, and they still play very well. No disrespect to Uzbekistan, but when you assess and check, they loaded the midfield with six midfielders. 4 were defensive, 2 were on the offensive. So it was a 6-3-1. I don't know what the coach was trying to do. Clearly, it was not going to work here. And then when we look at the stats as well, but we can look at everything that has happened here. But this World Cup, we can also say that the Colombians have had a brighter start than anyone had wanted. So as we jump to the stats, 61%, XG 1.61. They dominated in virtually every department. Shocking enough, except for the defensive, obviously, but the duels, the passing, the amount of attempts and shots that were done, their accurate passing rate of 86% speaks for itself. 4 big chances in the space of 90 minutes. It tells you that 4 shots on target, 3 of those were goals. And it tells you that actually these guys didn't play around. They wanted to get the result. They got the result and it was brilliant. So again, another team that's using a 4-3-3 system, attacking very well, attacking in a powerful fashion, getting the results, and yeah, there's really nothing that anyone can complain about because really, when you take your chances, when you attempt to score, you get more goals, you get the result. Okay, so again, the South Africa game. I watched this. As you know, I'm South African. I watched this game. And if I'm going to be blunt, and I'd like all the viewers to actually comment this or give your feedback on this. Honestly, South Africa should have won this game. And I'll say why. After the second hydration break, the momentum slightly shifted in South Africa's favor. They were playing, they were more confident on the ball. The Czechs were scoring, the ball was moving at a faster pace. What is killing South Africa is our striking department is lacking. So I don't know how they're going to resolve this problem because last time in my comments or on the videos that I've created, I said you cannot start Reinders and Foster. You got to start one or the other. Fine. They started with Reinders. Okay. Reinders wasn't as effective as I thought he would be. I personally wanted my Khopa to actually start, but Rangers didn't give us what we actually needed. He he put in a shift, he contributed, so did Jaden Adams, but when I look at it, the squad that they put on wasn't so bad. My issue was, why didn't we capitalize? Why didn't South Africa ride that momentum, get that winning goal, punish the Czechs for such lackluster play? Because after they scored the first goal, the opening goal, within the fifth or sixth minute, the Czechs just hung around. Yes, there were times they did their forages up front. They tried to score. Nothing happened. The all and great and powerful Patrick Sheik did nothing. Where was he? Again, I like the setup of the back four. They played 4-3-3. What we were used to. It worked. It did the job. I'm so happy to see Apollos. Maseko pulled in a shift. Mbata, that is great. He did very well. Bogazi at the back. He put in a shift that was good. Um, the person who I think took a lot of initiative and nobody talks about it. I'll talk about Mbogazi and what he did during the game. But Mudiba, I don't know who the striking coach is at Bafana Bafana, but can he just drag him into the striking department? Because we can see that this gentleman was taking a lot of shots. The will is there, the technique just needs refinement, and he needs to be on target because something tells me a goal could come from him, but he needs to be more sharper. He takes a lot of shots, he does. That's what I like. That's the object of the game. Take shots, score goals. It's just that he was a bit off target. And then the internet is going crazy about Mbogazi, about how he managed to take a shot and the ball exploded. Boom, ball gone. But let's take a moment to say, if not for my circle and him taking that shot, that penalty would have not happened. As it is obvious. The Czechs, you could see they were tired. Now, we were using aggressive wing play. We were trying to do everything to tire the Czechs. One thing or point of contention is that we played a lot of balls in the air. They were not supposed to do that. That ball should have just stayed on the ground. We do 1-2 passes, just moving the ball around in a quick pace. So it ended 1-1. South Africa's in it, but only just. Only just. They can do better. But now it's against a team that is now riding on the idea that they have to beat South Africa as well. But I'm gonna get to that at a later video when it's South Africa versus Korea Republic. And oof, that game is at 3 a.m. in the morning. South African time, obviously, but hey, okay, forgive me for rambling. Stats. Right. We had the ball position. Here's the thing that annoys me about South Africa. We had the ball position. We didn't execute our shots and do very well. We took 17 shots. So if you look at the stat itself, we own them in the passing department, which was 90% accurate. The opposition touches in the box, we got there. But the thing is, when we get to the final third, why are we not taking those shots? Why are we not punishing them? Take your shots. Buy the ticket. Make sure people know your name. People remember that, yeah, I scored a goal. I punish you. So what? We need to be more attacking, more adventurous. The shots at goal, it's 4. The blocks, it was 8. So this is the polar opposite of what happened in the first game. So I like what I see here, but my issue is the following. We can see by the attacking stats, the minutes that were played, the expected XG, the defensive contributions, the works. Those are the top stats. It was the Mukwena. So yeah, we can see he did a shift. So when we discuss tactics, I'm going to say this. South Africa needs to learn that when we get into the final third, when we reach that D in the final third, take your shots. We need some players to be delivering in everything that we need. So Apollos, he does very well. He was playing on the left. I would rather have him on the right. But I'd like to say to Hugo Bruce, okay, it's your last chance. But before I made this episode, something dawned on me. Go back and check Bafana's performance in tournaments. They rarely win their first match. It is their second and third matches where they start bringing in something. So for South Africa to go through, they need to win, and it's going to be a very tough game. Then let's look at the others. It was Bosnia and Switzerland. Now, that game, the first 73 minutes was a snooze fest of near misses and what ifs. Then, 5 goals were scored in a space of 25 minutes. Before I continue, this World Cup has officially produced the most red cards. Well, the red cards in the group stage or throughout the whole tournament, it's produced a lot. It's already 6 red cards, but I'm getting ahead of myself, but we're going to talk about this. So we're looking at the lineup. So it is your Granit Xhaka, it's Vargas, it's also Embolo. So yeah, it was brilliant. Rodriguez is still there. Kanji did his job. Unfortunately, and this is for Bosnia, it happens, they lost. But the way they crumbled in a matter of minutes was just breathtaking. It was the 74th, it was the 84th, it was the 90th minute, and it was the 90th. Well, they struck back on 3-1 with one hell of a shot, and it was brilliant. So, again, What do we have here? The Swiss went with a conservative 4-3-2-1. So that would be a classic 4-4-2 with playing with a cam. Also have three midfielders here. Xhaka being a classic number six, the defensive midfielder, and then playing with the two-prong attack. Bosnia here, they played a flat back four, a flat middle four, and then a two-prong attack. For all intents and purposes, this did not provide any width for them. So I would say bend your back four. Okay. Um, have a cam, a defensive midfielder, a right mid and a left mid, but that's a 4-4-2 diamond and it requires a lot of discipline and focus to do it. They were playing on a grass surface. Okay, let's look at the stats. As expected, 62%, XG of 2, total shots. They dominated in every department. They dominated. Nah, the Swiss, okay, not in the defense, obviously, because they were pinning the Bosnians. But when we look at everything here, passes, 88% in their own half, which means they love building up from the back and moving the middle. Accurate long balls. We're looking at accurate crosses. The amount of throw-ins they obtained was a lot, which means there was a lot of defending that was done and they were clearing out and kicking it. A lot of saves by the goalkeeper here. So, bluntly, it's tough out here. It is very, very tough. Hmm. Right, then we have the early slaughter in round two. Yeah, there's a reason why I say slaughter. It is one thing to obtain a red card, maybe in both halves. It is another when you obtain a red card in each half and also concede 3 goals in each half. So what do we have here? I'm talking about Canada doing a 6-0 mauling of Qatar and leaving Lapategi wanting, scratching his head, looking for answers. It was savage. Savage, savage, savage. Also, Jonathan David has more goals than Ronaldo so far. This gentleman got a hat trick. They ran riot. So you could see it was mid to late first half where they got the red card. And then early in the second half, they received another red card. And it was straight red cards that just came out. To be blunt, this game, it was over in the first half. I just felt it was pointless to keep watching. It was a slaughter. It was painful. It was brutal. We can even look at the stats now and I'll do the full stat check. But tactical lineup, let's see how they set themselves up. Classic 4-4-2 against a 4-3-3. They were forced to go defensive. It became an 11v9 situation and I would say Canada showed effective game management of what happens when there have been two players who've been dismissed and now you have extra manpower. How do you run the show? This could have easily been 7 or 8 nil. Could have been nine. The current World Cup record for the most goals in the group stages is still held by Hungary. They scored 10 goals against El Salvador's one in 1982. So that tells you something. Okay, so let's look at the stats. The stats will tell you, it will give you a full description of how nasty this game was. Because to me, um, it was it was a battering. Check here. 79%. XG of nearly 5. 32. I repeat, 32. Total shots. 10 on target. 97. I repeat, 97 touches in the opposition box. There's the diagram. The madness continues. Accurate passes. Qatar didn't stand a chance. Check it. 91%. 19 corners. 19. Man. It was pure domination. Defense, they had no choice. Look at this. I like everybody to just check here. 16 tackles, 10 interceptions, 14 blocks, 61 clearances, 4 keeper saves. Right. I don't know about you, but I I got half. At least South Africa had 2 red cards. It was okay, but okay, no, it wasn't okay. We were angry. We were heartbroken. We were there to go on the street with pitchforks. But mm, it was inexcusable. Then Mexico. Mexico has outright sealed their place in the next round, in the round of 32. They scored only one goal against a South Korea that is very tenacious, that is looking to fight, that is looking to prove that they belong, that are saying to us that we want to win this game. We want to be in the next round. Right, so it was all it was all okay. I mean, everybody I spoke to and I text, they said to me, "Oh, Mexico is gonna lose against Korea," and I'm like, "Not at home." It would be foolish for you to think that Mexico will lose in their backyard. It will be foolish. There's no way. Check. They used the same formation that they used against South Africa. It was a 4-1-4-1. Attacking, very dangerous, very powerful. 4-1-4-1 works as long as you have a high energy here, and because of the altitude, the Koreans had a hard time with this. Hmm. They played with a back three. They played with six in the middle, and they played with one up front. Uh-huh. The next game the Koreans are playing is going to be in Jalisco, which is in Mexico, against South Africa. Conditions are going to be cooler, but the question is who wants it more? Mexicans have taken it. His team, his rating just went down. Romo got the goal, and that was goalkeeping error by Kim, the goalkeeper over here. Don't be confused with Kim, who plays it behind. That was an error that happened there. So there's a there's going to be a very, very action-packed day three. Let's check the stats. The Koreans actually had Mexico's number. They just didn't capitalize. And the Mexicans, they did their job in the part where it matters the most. Shots on target and scoring a goal. The XG, uh, Korea was more likely to score, but it went to the Mexicans. Passing was the Koreans, and they did in their own half, which means they have a habit of passing in the back and passing a lot. And the match against South Africa and South Korea is going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. We will see what will happen, but I flat out wanted to discuss tactics and say the following. As if you're going to be a football manager and you look at manpower, you have to assess where your strengths are and where they lie. And when we look at this tournament, if you're going to play way too defensive, you're going to pay for it. If you're too gun ho on attack and not focused on your defense, you're going to pay for it. So, all in all, tactically speaking, all the managers are going all in and all out to just make sure that they get the results. But a lot of these groups are going to go to the round three to see who's going to be the flat out victors and who goes to the next round. That's where hopes are fulfilled, dreams are dashed, and it's going to hit a lot of people very hard. So, most of the people are going to say to me, okay, but Mr. Rankan, you're there, you're telling us all of this. So, what is the best way to deal with the conditions of this World Cup? The best way to deal with this is if you're a tactician, the game now is played in 4 quarters because of the two hydration breaks. Fine. So, there has got to be tactics that have to be drawn of explaining for the first couple of minutes, the first roughly 22 and a half to 23 minutes, even 25 minutes of how you are playing. It's going to be played in cycles. So there's a lot of cycles that are happening. It means there's 4 cycles that you have to go through. So if you look at the South African game, it was in the final cycle where because of the passing and everything that they were doing, the Czechs were getting tired. So what is the next best thing to do as a manager? I would say try and get a goal within that 22-minute mark, specifically within the first half. The Czechs did it, but the problem is they always went in a low block defense, and because of their height, taking long shots made it a challenge. So now what do? If you're very clever as a tactician, you have to notice that within the first half, which has been broken now into a quarter, so your first quarter, second quarter, which is 22 and a half minutes, plus the added time because of the drinks break. So we're looking at about um They're at about 4 or 5 minutes sometimes, depending on what happens and what action has taken place. In this regard, we have to find the ways to get the right strategies at the right intervals and manage to score the goals. So far, I think the Japanese have mastered this because on social media they've been talking about the Japanese showing boards, which is predetermined strategies that had to follow through when they were playing against the Dutch. So it was a numbered sequence. It was one, two, three, all the way until five. So it means it was predetermined tactics that they have to work on. This World Cup now shows you that you can't go straight forward for 45 minutes using a standard tactic that you want to get. So to do this, it means per quarter, have a ready set game plan. So you must have a game plan when you're winning and a game plan when you're behind. There must be adjustments to tactics and also adjustments for substitutions, which means at the right intervals, you have to bring in the right players who are going to have a very massive effect in terms of goals. This is the best way to make it a game changer. And I know as the fans we are being frustrated that every single time the game is heating up, we're moving at a quick pace. Drinks break. We all know it's a marketing gimmick that they want to make money. They want to have everything there. I get it. But for me, if I was a South African coach, start playing the games in quarters now. You have your first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, the final quarter. Make sure that within the first quarter, no goals are conceded. You need to push hard. You need to play very well. The next game is in Mexico. So if they just structure it properly, I think South Africa will beat the Koreans and go to the next round. They just have to make sure that they time it perfectly and actually ride that wave. And another thing, to the viewers out there on my channel, to the future generation of footballers and aficionados who love this sport, can we please refrain from backpassing when you have full momentum to go ahead? When the momentum is in full swing and you are up front, take the shots, take an opportunity, do something, and make sure that we score. My thing that irks me is a lot of touches that are done in the box that leads to the momentum and the initiative just dying. That needs to come to an end. That has to stop. Take your opportunities, take your goals, bang them in. Show us that you're a brilliant attacker. Again, earlier I said South Africa could have won that game, but no one wanted to raise their hand, take responsibility, score the goal, be the hero, send your nation into ecstasy. They didn't do it. Have heart. Do all you can. Forgive me for being too emotional, but that is how it must be done. Ladies and gents, that's all the time I have. But before I leave, I'm just gonna give a quick prediction of what is to happen, specifically tonight into the morning while South African Standard Time. Right, so it's round two. I would like the Australians to actually win this game against the US, but I smell a 2-1 win going either way. So more than three goals will be scored in this game. Well, more than two goals will be scored in this game. So the US are under pressure. The Australians are riding on a high of beating Turkey, so they're looking to make sure that they get the desired results. Scotland versus Morocco. Morocco is riding on that high of drawing with Brazil. I sent a 2-1 win for Scot. No, not Scotland. 2-1 win Morocco. Brazil is looking to make amends against Haiti, so anything north of 3 goals, so 3-0. Turkey against Paraguay. Paraguay is looking to get some pride back after the hammering they got. Turkey is looking to make up for it from the embarrassing performance that they got against Australia. Turkey looks to take this game. I said Turkey was going to win the previous game, and I got that completely wrong. And that's what I love about this tournament. You think you know, but you don't. I would say I would say Turkey, but close margin. 1-0, 2-1. That's what we're looking at. Netherlands versus Sweden. Sweden is riding on a high. Uh, the Netherlands have to get a victory. Ivory Coast and Germany. 2-0 Germany. Netherlands 2-1. Ecuador and no, we'll cover that another time, but I'm just gonna stop here. Germany, it's gonna be 2-0. So just by looking at these games, a lot of these games are either going to make sure that whoever's leading is consolidating their position in the next round, or those who are fighting for a berth in the next round are now going to go in an all in or nothing situation. So it's high stakes, anyone can take it. Again, I'd like to say to you, thank you for tuning in. Wait for the next episode. And yeah, peace out.